Donald Trump is making his first major staffing decision since becoming president-elect. Trump has named campaign manager Susie Wiles his next White House chief of staff. Wiles is a longtime Trump confidant and political strategist, and she will become the first woman in history to be in that powerful role. Now, before agreeing to accept the job, Wiles wanted a promise that she would be the gatekeeper and have control over who had access to the president inside the Oval Office. It's a task former Trump chiefs of staff struggled with. A source tells CNN, with Wiles in charge, the clown car can't come into the White House at will. Well, the hiring of Wiles is likely to give the transition process a boost forward. Sources say Trump allies are working the phones in an effort to secure a high-level post in the new administration. The president-elect could make more staffing decisions later today. Well, no one better to talk about Donald Trump's choice for chief of staff than Chris Whipple. He's the author of The Gatekeepers, How the White House Chief of Staff Define Every President. Good to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
So you wrote this book, The Gatekeepers, How the White House Chiefs of Staff Define Every Presidency. Just how much power do they wield?
Well, the job is absolutely critical. What I learned from writing the book is that every president learns, sometimes the hard way, that you cannot govern effectively without empowering a White House chief of staff as first among equals to do a number of things. Most important, you mentioned the gatekeeper role, but the president counts on the White House chief of staff to execute his agenda, and at the end of the day, most importantly, to tell him what he doesn't want to hear. So it's an absolutely critical position. And one of the reasons that the first Trump term was so chaotic, frankly, was because the notion of a Trump White House chief of staff was really an oxymoron. Trump wasn't interested in having anybody tell him what he didn't want to hear, and the first term was the result.
And of course, you'd write that each president reveals himself by the chief of staff he picks. So given what happened in the first term, what does that say about Trump? And what does it say that he has now chosen what will be the first woman to hold that role?
Well, first of all, it's long past time that a woman became White House chief of staff. There's never been one, and that's a welcome development. I think what Trump's chiefs of staff during his first term revealed about him is that, again, he's not someone who wants anyone to tell him hard truths. Trump wants to be Trump and do what he wants to do. He went through 4 White House chiefs, and he ultimately found the chief who was perfect in his own mind, Mark Meadows, who was the ultimate sycophant, who wouldn't challenge Trump on anything. So the challenge for Susie Wiles is that she's going to have to find a way to tell the president hard truths. By all accounts, she managed the president well, if you can do any such a thing with Trump on the campaign. But of course, the consequences are so much more grave in the White House than they are on the campaign trail.
And of course, you mentioned the 4 chief of staff that went through the Trump administration the first time. I just want to play some sound each time we broke that news from the last term.
The White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus forced out and replaced now by the current Homeland Security Secretary, retired Marine Corps General John Kelly.
President Trump last hour confirming that Chief of Staff John Kelly will leave his post at the White House at the end of the year.
President Trump has just tweeted that Budget Director Mick Mulvaney will be named his acting Chief of Staff.
Yeah. Mick Mulvaney's gone.
He's gone. He was an acting chief of staff, never became a permanent chief of staff over here at the White House. The president announcing on Twitter just in the last several minutes that he's naming the Republican congressman from North Carolina, Mark Meadows, as his new chief of staff.
I believe for your book, you spoke to about 17 chief of staffs. Did you speak to any of Trump's former chief of staffs? And if so, what insight did they give you?
Well, I did. I spoke to all the living White House chiefs of staff at the time my book came out in 2017. And subsequently, I spoke with Reince Priebus, who had a harrowing tale to tell about his short tenure as White House chief. He said, Chris, take everything you've heard and multiply it by 50.
Wow.
That's how chaotic it was. Now, again, I think that Susie Wiles brings some real strengths into this job. It was mission impossible during Trump's first term, but she has a chance because she's demonstrated that she can work with Trump without getting fired. For example, on the campaign, she's respected with inside Trump world and outside. I think a real challenge for her will come with Capitol Hill and running the White House. I mean, the great White House chiefs have all had previous White House experience and knowledge of Capitol Hill. She doesn't have much. She was there 40 years ago. But ultimately, the biggest challenge for any chief, and it's exponentially more difficult for Trump's chief, is once again to tell the president, I'm sorry, sir, you really don't want to go down that road. Here's why, and expect him to listen.
Mm. Well, we'll be watching this closely and awaiting some more decisions potentially later today. Good to have you with us,